My name is David Makarangure, and I'm now aged 28 years. I come from a place known as Muireri, a village in Nyahururu. And I am legally married to one wife, and now I have a baby boy aged 4 months, and I work as a legal assistant in a community program for active non-violence and human rights in St. Martin, Catholic Social Apostolate, a church-based organization working with marginalized people in Nyahururu. And I wish to share my story with you.
Last night I heard the screaming, loud voices behind the wall. Another sleepless night for me, it won't do no good to call the police.
I was born in a family of 5 people, and our parents depended substantially on illicit, prohibited brews. So most of the time my parents have been drunk. They have been fighting, there have been a lot of fights in my family. I don't remember one time we had a full week without the violence, without my father and my mother fighting. So I grew up knowing issues of violence, issues of fights. And I felt that it is not nice. When my father used to harm my mother, I could feel bad. I felt bad when I saw my mother bleeding. When my mother would wait for my father to sleep, and then she comes with a wood, or maybe with a metal rod, and then she hits my father. From that time henceforth, I slowly became a street boy. I was sniffing glue. In the street I learned to smoke bangi, I learned to smoke cigarettes. I also came across a lot of violence. Sincerely, as I'm narrating this story to you, some of the memories are too bad for me. I don't like remembering. I was even praying for me to become bigger and stronger like the older ones, so that at least I can stop being violated even by the bigger boys, because they used to beat us at night. Why I asked them to give me maybe something they are eating. For example, I remember a specific time I was in a certain bin. I was collecting some cakes which had burnt. So I was collecting them and I was putting them in a certain sack. And I think the owner of that bakery, or a person who was working there, came and he just held me, slapped me, he kicked me, and he even took me somewhere to a certain structure where he continued beating me, and he tied me with some strings, and then he left me there. This is a person I can't be able to revenge against. This is a person I can't be able to beat, because for sure he is bigger than me, he is stronger than me, and maybe he has some security. He is more fortified than the way I am.
The myths, the dreams, the prayers, the notion we can do better, change our lives and paths, create a new world.
God worked through the church, the Catholic Church in Nyahururu. There came a certain lady, a Catholic nun known as Sister Jane Mwangi, who started a feeding program for street and needy children. And I remember on one specific occasion during this feeding program, she narrated a story to us about a certain saint known as Saint Maria Goretti. She was a young lady who was attacked by another young man. In fact, she was pierced and she died. But some time before dying, she said that I have forgiven him. At the apex of pain, she forgave. This story touched my heart, and it was a new revelation. It was a new dawn on my life.
Indeed, gender-based violence is one topic that we have definitely talked about for a very long time. But how do we start to educate and inform on different platforms, all right? I'm joined by Naomi and Gilbert, who are doing just that. Please welcome them. They are creative geniuses. Hi, guys.
Hi.
How are you?
We're fine.
Thank you
Fine,
very
fine,
much for
thank
being
you.
here. All right. So, Naomi, for you, you have a passion in many, many places, but very focused so much on social change.
Yes, I
and,
am.
of course, creating platforms to advocate and to inform on this. Tell me a little bit about your background and why this is something that really is close to your heart.
So about 3 years ago, I started an NGO that works with matatu drivers, touts, and boda boda on issues of ending gender-based violence by offering training in gender equality, positive masculinity, and the role of transport operators as agents of change.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And how initially starting that, you know,
Yes.
because you make it sound really lovely, but you know, to approach touts, to approach guys in Tao and all of that, looking like you do, so nice and meek and everything, can't be easy.
No, it's
How was
not.
it for you?
I was fortunate enough to have a male gender expert who would walk with me,
Okay.
practically walk beside me when we would go approach the public transport operators. And he's also a cultural leader, so that helped a lot in developing the program and also getting the public transport operators on board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gilbert, for you, you are a creative as well,
Yes.
in the art.
Yes.
Gilbert is on NTV. So we're kind of like colleagues, you and me.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your background and then tell me about the show that airs right here on NTV.
Yeah, my name is Gilbert Lucalia. I'm a performing artist generally, but specifically for the last 8 years or so, I've been concentrating mostly on film and TV, mostly as a director, but I've acted in a few local programs and even international films.
Okay.
Yeah, that's generally what I do. At the moment, I am the director of a show on NTV called Pray and Play. It's a story about how our religious leaders just, get on with life out there and in their families and the intrigues and, I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, really.
We are fascinating individuals, Kenyans, Africans. We're very fascinating, and
Yeah.
it's good to sort of almost put us on a stage and see the way we deal with issues. And one issue that both of you have come together to really advocate against is gender-based violence.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about education of it, because I think for many, many people, when they hear GBV in this country, we almost go into an automatic mode where you're like, yes, it's bad, I agree, but we sort of just let it, fly over our heads. Tell me a little bit about the work that you've done and where we are in Kenya, and especially after post-election violence when it comes to the victims, number of victims, the affected, and how we're really actually trying to curb this issue.
Okay. I think the public is more aware about gender-based violence, but I also know there's a misconception where they think that when you say gender-based violence, you mean just violence against women, but it actually caters to both men and women. We've seen an increase in the number of men who've been victims of violence, both at home and also in conflict areas. So I think right now we are looking into having creative ways of talking about gender violence by bringing it closer to people's lives. That way you're able to relate it to your home, to the street you work, to the workplace you're in. So not just, we don't want it to look like a lecturer just,
Right.
lecturing you. Yeah, so we are trying, by using theater, we are trying to bring it closer to the lives you live.
Okay, and of course this is, it's called
Yes,
Mending. It's
Yes.
got double meanings. Mending Monologues. Tell me a little bit about why you were so passionate about getting involved in this project, Gilbert, and looking at your own personal life as a man in this society, where we know GBV is happening even now as we're having this conversation. There are many, many people becoming victims as we speak. What for you can you say as a man in society, and why it was important for you to get involved in this project?
Apart from just having a responsibility as an artist in the society where we want to affect change positively, this is something, this is a malady that is all over. This is something that happens everywhere. And many people will think violence is just about, you know, physical, or the psychological aspect of it is very, very rampant in this society. It happens. It happens to people all over, in social places, in schools, even in religious spaces. Yeah, and my feeling as a human being is that I need to voice it. We just need someone to just say, look, it's happening. You know, maybe that's enough.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just enough. You might not be able to press charges or do anything, but just pointing out and saying, hey, check, that's happening. It's not right. That's enough, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the thing that happened to us as Kenyans is that post-election violence happened. And then, of course, the international community started really magnifying our issues.
Yeah.
And the word gender-based violence seems so big. You know, it seems like it's really about elections gone wrong.
Yeah.
It's about huge communities, houses on fire. No. GBV even means when you're sitting on your balcony and you hear upstairs your neighbor is being beaten,
Yes.
and you do nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and you do nothing, and you
Yeah.
say nothing. You don't even try to knock on the door. That is really, it boils down to that. Someone you're working with comes to work with a black eye, you don't ask.
You don't ask why.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's the direction of what this monologue is, this play is going to do.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a caller on the line, I believe. Good morning. Habari?
Sultan, habari yako?
Mzuri sana, ni wewe tumekuwatch tu saizi.
Mimi mmeniwatch.
Habari yako Makara?
Niko poa sana. Habari yako wewe?
Niko poa sana. Thank you so much for calling. You want to contribute to the conversation?
I'm very happy about what happened to me, and now that it has become something to change the hearts of people.
Thank you, Makara. And that's what we used. We used your story to really, really like highlight that a lot of people can go through challenges in this life, but just like you can recover. You can have a new, fresh start.
Actually, I'm happy about it, and I'm happy that it happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that now it is now a sign of hope, a sign of heaven to people.
Yes, absolutely.
I am grateful.
Thank you, Makara. And we are very, very grateful for you sharing your story with us.
Yes, I'm happy.
Salimiana sana huko Nyahururu.
Asante sana.
Okay, asante.
Bado nasukuma maisha.
Thank you. Endelea sana. We'll keep your contacts, of course, and connect you to Gilbert and to Naomi.
You can tell that story to as many people as you can, so that people can change.
Okay, thank you.
When you are those ones who are suffering from violence, they can take heart.
Yes, indeed.
It's not the end of life.
Thank you so much. What can you guys say to Makara before he hangs up?
I would say, first of all, thank you for being brave enough to come out with your story, and to also inspire other people to know that violence does happen, and you can still pick up your life after it, and still go on to lead a happy, fulfilled life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love the fact that, you know, a lot of people, and a lot of Kenyans, I think, you know, we fear the media a little bit, and especially when it comes to personal issues. Yes. But sometimes one story can literally change many stories. He could have stopped somebody from, you know, from being violent this morning. Let's, of course, talk about, you know, other activities and other platforms that can actually advocate against GBV, and some of the interventions and activities that you've used, and very focused, especially on men, all right, who and younger boys, you know, who have maybe even grown up in homes where there's been violence. What can you say to that? Because it ends up being a cycle, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Well, statistics show that people who have grown up in homes where there's been violence are more likely to become perpetrators of violence. And there have been interventions where I know Pastor Simon Mbedi goes to school and talks to boys. So you have men talking to men, to boys. So that has been a forum or a way that has really worked well. But we also need to realize that we need to draw in men into it, because once we focus on women alone, we leave men out of the solution.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
and it can't work. It can't work without full participation.
Yes.
Yeah. Gilbert, tell me a little bit about this, because you have written a lot about us as Kenyans, our peculiarities,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that we're, you know, we're quite different from many other nationalities. And I know you've written about that and you've delved into that.
Yes.
A number of years ago, I believe it was around 2010, there was a huge rise of cases of male victims, and especially in Nyeri, right? And when so you start to read social media, when you start to see what kind of feedback came from the news being aired on different stations, you know, it almost became a laughing matter.
Yeah.
It almost became a joke. And you're seeing this man has literally almost been hacked to death by his wife. And people just sort of made fun of it, you know? And sometimes when you hear that men are being chapwad at home, you know, and you hear the guy for Maendeleo ya Wanaume, we almost make fun of it or take it so lightly or brush it like it's nothing. What can you say about that? Why do we do that?
We are a very awkward queer society. I know that. We pretend a lot. That's a fact. But we need to understand that the traumas that come with these habits are really, really deep, and they can affect futures. They can affect futures. Eventually, a boy or a girl who's witnessed this happening to the father will feel, you know, that's how it should be. And they inculcate that in their minds, and it grows with them. As they mature, they believe that men are inferior. I don't believe for one moment that any human being is inferior. It all depends on what you have and what you're willing to offer to society. But you see, it became almost a setup, a cultural, you know, malady. It's specific to that society.
Right.
Yet we have witnessed such in small, you know, measures. In small, it happens to us in schools. We've heard about religions and where boys have, you know, this has happened. But what we need, I think, we need to just take off that mask and say, no, this is not happening to our society. We will not allow our boys, our girls, our fathers, our mothers, our grandparents to be inflicted with so much pain that will eventually harm the entire fabric of the society. I think it's upon every individual. In one of the monologues, it's called 4 of the 5 letter words. And this is really about the reassurance that we need to give to especially let me say generally, but mostly to the women who've undergone through this. Because it's really, it's about you having been in a relationship or something, and this has happened to you, and then you tend to have this blanket dismissal that all men are like that.
Right.
Yeah, and it affects you eventually. It will affect you eventually. You might not, you might get into a relationship, but you might get there, you know, half into it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole society crumbling down right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you actually even don't recognize that it's happened to you, and the psychological breakdown and not being able to break the cycle. We'll talk about interventions to break the cycle, from home to community to society, and see how we can start to do that. But guys, you have another caller on the line. Okay. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi, Toby.
How are you? Thanks for calling, Asinta.
I'm fine.
Excellent. Asinta, you want to contribute to the conversation? You have a question or comment?
I have a question.
Go for it.
Gilbert, you have said that the psychological gender violence. How would somebody know she has psychological gender violence? Because physical violence is the one which is known better than psychological violence.
Okay. What can you say?
You see, we grow up and we are told negative things about ourselves. Generally, I come from the performing industry, and we are told about this, about your physique, and this, about it, and eventually you live with it. You tend to feel, I'm inferior. I mean, you know, there are things that we say to girls, there are things that we say to our sisters that they live in their minds forever. They do. When we tell them, I'm better than you, it's as simple as that. I'm better than you. They'll ask, maybe or maybe not. And then they start leaving it like that. That's how we are constructed. That's how words affect us. That's why it's important for us to just view society. I mean, try to Try to say the right things in the proper way,
Right.
without being subjective, be objective in every criticism. Because if for example, something happens and I feel you've done me wrong, it is not right for me to go on and on about many other things that are not related to what just happened.
Right.
Yeah. Let me be specific. Say you took 1, 2, 3 and I wasn't happy. Period. Don't say not so much about you and
Words are powerful.
Yeah.
Yes. Words are
very
so
powerful.
Absolutely. And you know, Asinta, we are going, of course, to connect you. I'm going to hope that, you know, these two can give you a ticket, all right, to go watch the play that is coming up, okay? And we'll give you some more information on that, okay? So you can keep this conversation going. Yeah. I think it's important. Absolutely. Participate. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
It's for people to participate, to argue, all right, to agree, to disagree, and things like that, but for the cause to be one, for us to eradicate GBV in Kenya forever. It needs to end. Talking, of course, about the vicious cycle, the cycle that never ends, because that's what happens, you know. You get, and there's a term called gaslighting. And gaslighting is when it starts really, really small, so you don't notice it, yeah? Someone tells you, I don't like that dress, you know, and you kind of take it in and then you change because that person you're with has told you that. Yeah. And they tell you, no, I don't really think you're that smart, you know, the next week. And it's small little things. And then the mental abuse is more. The verbal abuse is more. And then it's physical. So by the time you get hit the first time as a woman or man, you actually believe that you deserve it because it has taken such a process.
Absolutely.
And so by the time you actually leave, and that's why a lot of people, and especially in relationships and marriages, they come back. They always come back. Let's talk about breaking the cycle, Naomi. What can you say, and what have you found, especially on the ground? Why is it so hard?
There's an element of culture and socialization. So, for example, let's start from the family unit. You're told, you know, you have to be together, you have to make your marriage work. So people take that in. That's the aspect of culture and socialization. So we also need to talk about what aspects of our culture are promoting violence and are promoting people to still stay in abusive relationships. And then we move on now to the community. People don't intervene. When, let's say, there's there's violence in the community, people are fighting in the home. They don't intervene. So you just go there, stand, you're like, oh, what happened?
It's true, and we're whispering and gossiping and everything. It's bad.
So we need to be more proactive in intervening. And then now we move on to the society level. What policies do we have in place? Because at the end of the day, we are talking about the police, the judicial system. So once we start from the smallest societal unit, which is the family, then we move up. But there's also, so I'd say those, in short.
You did good. You did good there. Gilbert, before we take our next call, our name is Lucy. There is this, and that it happens, you know, guys go out for drinks, nini, and then one guy tells his buddies, yeah, man, she deserved that ngumiteke. I had to put her in a place, you know. And then he tells a story, you know, and he's sitting with in his patriarchal circle of love, you know, and guys are like, yeah, man, she did what? Yeah, that one, she deserved it. Let's talk about that and how to break that cycle, especially when it just starts with your friends, with just your friends, your colleagues, you know, people you hang out with, to just break that cycle and tell your friend, hey, by the way, I think you might need a bit of help, and I know how I can help you. All right, Lucy, good morning. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, love. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I would like to contribute.
Go for it.
Because this is something that should not happen to anyone. Violence to a child, to a woman, to a man, to whoever, there is nothing that should happen.
True, absolutely.
Yes, and I think the society, we are condoning it, because what happens, nobody talks about it. You see your neighbor being violated, yes, a man or a woman or a child. You keep quiet about it, and you say they'll get away with it, and even if I report it. But my bottom line is it starts within the family. If you went through where your parents never violated each other, or they violated the children. They never fought, and everything was going on well. There comes a relationship where the other person went through violence.
Yeah.
They do not understand each other. And the first time it happens, you are hit. You feel so helpless. You actually blame yourself. Actually, if you are a lady, you are in a marriage, you will actually say, I am actually the one who is on the wrong, and because I answered him, because I
yes. And then it becomes your fault, you know?
Then it becomes your fault. And when you go to the counselor, I'm sorry, there's a counselor there, I have to say one thing.
Yes.
The first thing the counselor does, and this one they have to stop, is to make feel that like you're vulnerable. That I don't know what school of thought.
Yeah.
But a counselor always makes somebody believe them. I don't know whether it's for monetary gains or
right. Yeah.
If your mother tells you that I went through this with your dad, you don't know, and she gives you a whole itinerary of what you went through. At the end of the day, you are left there, either as a man or a woman, knowing that you are the one who is in the wrong. And that's why who suffers more. If you're in a marriage, you have never seen they are born black. So they come here and they see, so when a lady around you, and this them, so they get married, they are hitting counseling, you know?
Right. Exactly.
And it is wrong. It's very wrong, and it should not happen to anyone. And again, the society should come and condemn it. And I really feel for that as the young man who went through all that I've watched. And I like that story of that thing. She was a very young girl. A boy wanted her, and they wanted to sexually harass her. They were left alone in the house. I think she must have been a cousin or something. And when she was refused, she was stabbed 17 times. And she died, and she forgave before she died. And when we forgive, we should try to help the person causing the violence out of it, because most of them is because they saw it.
Absolutely. Lucy, thank you. Thank you so much for that contribution, because it's true, it shouldn't happen to anybody. It shouldn't happen to anybody, and that cycle is what she's also touching on, you know, break that cycle, so that even if you've experienced abuse, you don't need to take it to the next level where your children and then their children, it'll just never end, and it's okay to ask for help. Of course, we're running out of time, but I really do want to talk about what we've just talked about. Men encouraging each other and saying, yo, man, I think actually you need to go see somebody. It's okay, by the way, and you will get better, you know, and you'll be happier. Because I'll say this for a fact, and I've done many, many documentaries and features. Any man who hits anybody doesn't feel good about it. Yeah, doesn't feel good about it. Yes, the victim is there, but the perpetrator is also suffering wildly inside. What can you say to that, Gilbert?
I agree, it shouldn't happen at all. It shouldn't, first of all. And for those people who are doing it, it's important to just put that person who you are victimizing in the shoes of your sister or your mother. Would you like that to happen to your siblings?
Right.
You know, I think that's the first step. When you before you raise your hand to hit someone, before you tell them how bad they are and you know, torture them mentally, just think about if you'd love that happening to yourself. Kobe, I'm on record as having a friend who was married to this guy who was really violent. And it started, you know, the pulls and pressures of life and stresses, and, you know, there's no income coming in from here and all that. And this girl came to me, and it started well. I want to support my family. So can you lend me 1, 2, 3? And I could, where I was able. And when she came to me about 2 weeks later, and she told me that it has gone very sore, and the guy is hitting them, you know, beating her up, I told her categorically, get away, get out of there, run. And I don't like this mentality or this thing about society victimizing.
It's a matter of life and death.
Yes,
let's all be honest.
See it tuanze ku victimize divorcees and see it. You better ask them what has happened there first
for them to actually leave. And a person to walk away from a commitment that big, it takes a lot.
And if you think you can just do that and go to, you know, social joints and brag about it, that's plain stupid. That's not cool at all.
Absolutely.
It's stupid.
And we should start to condemn that.
Yes, and it starts by us saying it.
Call the person out right there.
Yes,
Call them
yes.
out, even if they're your best friend. Call them out in front of everybody. The play is happening.
Yes.
All right. Tell me a little bit about it and how, of course, our viewers can get involved.
Okay, so the play is happening at the Michael Joseph Center, which
in Nairobi?
is yes, so Safaricom House, the second headquarters on Waiyaki Way, Westlands. Tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Yes. So
how
all
much
the
are tickets?
The tickets are 800 shillings up to tomorrow. And then thereafter 1,000 shillings, and all the proceeds are going to a charity.
Which charity?
Flone Initiative.
Wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful. And of course, in terms of education and giving the support where it's needed.
Yes.
All right, we will always give you support, guys, especially when it comes to such issues. We need to change our society one day at a time and one conversation at a time. Thank you so much. Absolutely, one play at a time. Before, of course, we give the answer, will you give away tickets to my beautiful viewers? Yes?
Yes.
How many?
We have 2.
Yay! Told you. All right. So 2 very lucky winners will go and enjoy this great monologue. He is amazing. Watch him right here on NTV. Pray and Pray. Yeah. You're doing awesome. You're doing awesome. Keep up the good work, everybody.
We try.
Thank you very, very much. All right. So we asked you a question earlier. Here it is. One more time. Okay, very quickly with the answer along with it. Which club did Kenyan international footballer Patrick Osiaka play for in 2012? And the answer to that is Petrolui Ploesti, Romania. All right, winners, Leonard Mwindi, Clarence Arson, and Charles Ochacha. Come on down and pick up your gifts at Nation Ochola, my friend. Sorry. All right, Leonard Mwindi, Clarence Arson, and Charles Ochola. Come on down and pick up your amazing hampers from AM Live. And, of course, one of you will take some cash home with you. For now, we bid you adieu. All right, we shall see you right here tomorrow. Do something amazing, make the day count, and call somebody out who needs it. Oh yeah, angusha your track. Thanks.